the last month or so, I just have been, it's just been coming to me, healing, 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 talk about healing, healing. And it, healing is a multifaceted thing. And there are no, we're not going to have any, okay, this is this and this is this, because that's not the way it works. But so hopefully, uh, we're going to look at scriptures, healing scriptures in the Bible, and and hopefully we can have some discussion too about healing when we're done with the scriptures. But I just started out a little bit with this. Okay, a modern day standard definition to heal just means to become sound or healthy again, to restore to health, heal the sick. That's the common thing. That's what we think of when it comes to healing. And now from Aramaic, the word, it's hard to say here, but the word is HLM. It's kind of like helm, okay? And but it means to become whole. And we have healing, we have physical healing, and then we have spiritual healing. But the healing from Aramaic, it's to have whole, pure healing. You have to integrate the two. You have to integrate the healing, the body and the spirit. And of course, the spirit is utmost important because you can heal something physically, but if your spirit's not with it, it's not going to stay healed for very long. Okay, so basically, like I said, we have physical healing, spiritual healing. I mean, that's the way we split it out. That's just kind of what we do. But spiritual healing, it has to be combined with physical healing to become whole or permanent. Okay. And so healing, we think of going outward, going to somebody, going to a healer, and that of course, that of course is okay. That's what we do. That works. But also we have to remember that healing, we can have healing directly to us. We don't have to go out and get a healer or whatever. It I mean, obviously, from the teachings of Jesus, we can pray directly to our Father, and that goes for healing also. Okay. And the thing that the thing that I want to bring out and what we're going to look at and look for in all these scriptures that we're reading is the understanding that all healing comes from the divine source that we call God. But so I'm leaving this, I'm putting these other titles in here so that, many people have a problem with God. Um, and it's not that they don't necessarily believe in God, but they do not believe in the God. Um, well, I hate to say it, but the God of traditional Christianity that still remains an angry God and a God that that's going to punish you and stuff like that. So I just put, because when people talk that are not, maybe they're not affiliated with a religion or per se, and so they will call, they would say creator, which is fine, spirit, or a higher power. So basically, in all of these healings, we're going to talk about the healing and the presence of God as part of the healing. So basically, the process, healing comes through, and I just called it God energy. Yes, it is energy, but but it is but it is the divine, the God energy, so to speak. And just some Aramaic. Okay, the Aramaic word for spirit in Aramaic is ruha, and it also refers to God's healing power. And it is this power that passes from the healer to the sick. A healer is the instrument through which the sick person connects with divine power. Any doubt, and this is significant, and next week we're going to get into some really good stuff on faith, but any doubt in the mind will interrupt the flow of the spirit, just as rust prevents electrical current from passing through connecting wires. So basically, and let's remember what we know, and from Jesus, that God is spirit. Okay, so when we say, yeah, okay, many New Thought people go to spirit, it's the same as God. Okay, and it's the spirit or the presence of God. And that was Jesus' healing power. Okay. And we have to remember that God is love. So healing power is love too. Okay. I mean, it's the healing power of God, which is love, is what heals. And so this is just each week there'll be some more little whatever on healing, but I wanted to just, and we'll probably start out with just a little bit of healing and whatnot, how it works depending on the scriptures. So I just wanted to do this before we get into the scriptures. And once again, we're going to do scriptures from the Old Testament and from the New Testament, the Gospels in the New Testament. But it's all the same, okay? Just because we're doing the healing scriptures in the Old Testament, it's no different, because remember, Jesus didn't change anything. Jesus taught that God was our Father. He taught the healing power of love, and that never changed. He taught that, but God never changed. God was the same in the Old Testament as the New Testament. There's no change, and God is love. And so we'll see. We're going to do these scriptures. Hopefully, you have some comments too, because you can't just you 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 can't just do what normal Bible study and say, okay, well, this is this. Okay, we understand the story, but you got to incorporate all of this. Okay, so No, we're going to go. The scripture for tonight, I think is really cool. It's a little different than most. Um, okay, wait a minute. Here we go. And let me get the screens up. Okay, hold on. Let me okay, so we are going to the Old Testament, um, the book of Exodus, actually. No, this is the book of Numbers. And this scripture just came to me, and I think it's a great one to start off um, talking about healing. So it's Moses and the serpents. Now let's look at the setting. Okay, so when this is happening is Moses has led the people out of bondage in in Egypt. Remember, and they crossed the Red Sea, and so they're on their little route to the Promised Land, and so and the land, of course, is desert. All right, I mean, big time desert. All right, and so the people are the Israelites, the 12 tribes that were in Egypt, and so they're on their way to the promised land. Now that's the setting, and Mount Mount Or is where it is, and I put a little map in here just to, at least I think I did. Yeah. So, uh, and when we read the scripture, you'll see they had a problem. They had to, for whatever reason, they had to go around the land of Edom there. Okay. And so they're out of Egypt, they're in the desert, and so they had to do that. And of course, this is present day. And Jerusalem is up here. So, but interestingly enough, when they left Egypt, they were up here in Egypt, and they went south, and then they went north again. And I am I'm not going to take time to go into that because it's well, and whenever you research this stuff on just regular and whatnot, you there will be so many contradictions. So I just, they got this route and they got that route, and then they say, oh, I think he did this. But so what I do, it's good to know that, but I stick with whatever Dr. Lomsa and Dr. Erico taught. Anyway, it's no big deal, but I just thought you'd like to know where we're going here, what we're talking about. Okay, and so the characters, um, all right, Moses, okay. Moses was a prophet. And remember, Moses was the baby in the basket, if you go back that far. And he was raised he was raised by the Egyptians, then he went left the Egyptians, and then he was called back to take his people from there. Okay, and the thing about it is, remember, he is a prophet, and that means he communicated with God, because all of the prophets got their communication from God. And so he was leading the Israelites out of the bondage, and the other players were the Israelites, the families that were journeying in the wilderness on the way to the promised land. Okay, so you have that setting, and now Okay, and now George is going to read the scriptures.
And they journeyed from Mount Or by the way of the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom. And the people were much distressed because of the way. And the people murmured against God and against Moses, saying, Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For neither is there bread nor water, and our soul is wearied with this inferior bread. And the Lord sent fiery serpents against the people, and they bit the people, so that many people of Israel died.
Okay. Um,
Hmm.
so what we need to, and the people were much distressed. Okay. Um, think about it this way. Uh, the although the Israelites were technically in bondage in Egypt, okay, they did not have it. I mean, they had it good, all right, because they were allowed, even though they were still in bondage, they were allowed to be on their own, and and so they were not, they weren't like starving slaves or anything like that. They really had it pretty good. And so here they find themselves in the desert, okay? Water was scarce, and the only food that they had at this point was in the form of manna. And I'm going to show you what that was in just a minute. People, uh, like I say, though they were in bondage, had it good. And so they were complaining. Okay. I mean, they were spoiled, really, even though they were slaves in Egypt. They complained about the lack of water and they were tired of eating manna. And they they complained because for whatever reason they had to take a route that went around the country of Edom, and that was a longer distance. So you get the idea of what from of the people, okay, and where they were at, and really you couldn't blame them. Um, and so
Oh,
um, all right. So I just decided to do this on about manna in case no in case anyone had not known exactly what it was. Um, but and manna, okay, manna was not some spiritual thing that God sent down. Manna is common even to this day in the desert. And manna is like coriander seed, and they gathered it daily, ground it, and made it into cakes. So manna is white like coriander seed, and the taste of it is like honey in the comb. The Hebrews gathered it from day to day. On Friday, they gathered for the Sabbath also. Remember those um, laws, and it remained fresh. But on the other days of the week, when they broke the divine command and gathered more than their daily need to keep as leftovers, the next day they always found worms in it. So it, so the manna was considered, a miracle and whatnot. But the miracle was that the Israelites were led into an area where manna was plentiful. So, and I didn't talk about miracles versus healing. Um, kind of the same thing, but miracles are kind of like abracadabra. Um, God, God just sent this stuff, and sent the manna and fed them and whatnot. But it had to do with the belief systems too. Um, and now this is this is seemingly manna, okay? Um, when
like
when
frankincense.
uh, I'm sorry. Uh, there are other pictures when you're trying to when you're trying to find pictures on this, on the internet, I mean, you will find everything. Now, I have seen pictures of this kind of more like a thin wafer kind of thing. But anyway, I just thought I would put this in here because we haven't done a lot of scriptures that involve the manna. So, but the manna was real, and manna is still in the desert the way that that the way that it was back then. Okay. And there you go, George.
Therefore the people came to Moses and said to him, We have sinned, for we have murmured against the Lord and against you. Pray before the Lord that he take the serpents away from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said to Moses, Make a fiery serpent of brass and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is bitten by a serpent, when he looks upon it, shall live. So Moses made a serpent of brass and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a certain serpent had bitten any man, when he had beheld the serpent of the brass, he lived.
Okay. Quite a scripture. Now, fiery serpents. Again, this may not exactly look like, what it was, but I just thought I'd put a picture of a snake in here. But it's supposed to be an Arabian desert snake. Anyway, okay, the fiery serpents. They may have been described as fiery because their shiny reddish color. These snakes were so ferocious and terrifying in appearance that some people died of heart attacks just looking at them. This species of serpents is still to be found in the Sinai Desert, all right, and in other regions in the Arabian Desert. Now, once again, all right, when you read this and all that this happened and and then he do the brass, it's people think it's just again, I hate to use the phrase abracadabra, but that uh, God sent these serpents just like he sent the manna. But the serpents are native to that area in the desert, and that particular area in the desert has many, many, many snakes. Okay, culturally. So, so and 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 how we know this and how it's justified a little bit is that during World War One, the troops had a horrible time within this region with the snakes. Now, I actually looked up it because there's a book by some general from that area, and now of course the troops didn't have a brass a brass serpent, but in the book it said that they killed like 25, 30 snakes a day trying to get through there. So once again now, that's okay. Let's do this first. We noticed that Moses prayed, communed with God like prophets did. And Moses was told by God to make a serpent of brass and set it on a pole so that those who had been bitten might look upon it and be healed. And there is that's just the rendition of what it what it may have looked like. And I put this question in here because we have the image of these people in the desert with with nothing, and they were slaves and they had come out of Egypt. But again, they were not like slaves like we think of it. And in other verses in these scriptures like Numbers and Exodus, you see that they made uh, calves, idols of all these. I think some of them had silver and gold. So the brass, I mean, again, you wouldn't think in the middle of the desert the way that it is, where would the brass come from? But again, they were pretty well off, and they brought their brass, whatever, gold and silver and whatever jewels, they brought those with them. So that's that part of it. Uh, all right. So now we talk about um hold on, let me back up here or go ahead. Let me see. Oh, okay. That's all right. I just wanted to make sure. All right. So we'll talk about fear here. So many of those who were bitten were struck with fear. But when they saw the serpent placed on the pole, they lost their fear and they were healed. Now, and so another interesting thing here, because most people look at this and it's like, huh? I mean, how can that be? But Semites um, also believed that fear can cure fevers. Muslim dervishes carry snakes with them on their preaching circuits. They tie them around their necks and carry them in their clothes. These dervishes claim they can perform cures. When those sick with fever are shown snakes by these so-called healers, they get up from the sick beds and run away in fear. In some cases, they are immediately healed. So we have this. So we have this fear thing, and we're going to talk about that. Um, but one of the things, okay, beliefs. Now, it says clearly in both the Lambs of the Bible and in the that God sent the fiery serpents. Well, no, God did not send the fiery serpents. They came upon the serpents in the desert, just like the people from World War I did. Okay. Um, and so, but that okay, God sent them. And why did God send the fiery serpents? Because the people had sinned by complaining and all of that. And it said they realized that they had sinned. So um and they were complaining to Moses. So you, you have to keep these beliefs um in mind and picture them, in the desert. I mean, I'm sure they were all freaking out big time, with snakes all over. I mean, I don't know what I'd be, but um, so um, so that's the story. God didn't send them; they were there, um, and the people, but they prayed. Okay, they realized they had sinned. Only they went to Moses, and Moses prayed for them. So just an you know, they probably weren't used to praying directly to God. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's what occurred. And so and now the role of faith here is not it's kind of not clear as we would um think it, and as it is clear in some of the other scriptures. But Moses had the faith, okay, and he did what God told him to do. So Moses' faith was strong, and the people, I don't think, because of the fear, they at least prayed, and probably was had faith, hopefully, that they could do something about those snakes. So anyway, this story popped up, and the brass, the brass snake, and a lot of people just say, well, this is just another miracle, and it was God, and that this isn't possible, and whatnot. But we're going to talk about that soon. So, okay. Now, the other thing about this snake, this brass snake on the pole, you notice these are medical symbols. Okay. Now, of course, when you look these things up, you hope that you're just going to get a simple whatever, but no, you never get anything simple. So I just thought I would put these on here, because now the medical symbols and what you see, what you see here, that they, of course, the Greeks came up with the idea for the medical symbol, but the origin rests back here on this story from Moses, and so I'll just read this, and thought you might like to have this information. The single snake, the rod of Asclepius, as best I can pronounce it, and the other one, caduceus, are both symbols are used in medicine, but they have different meanings and origins. So this one, the single snake, that just has a single snake, represents the Greek god of medicine, and is a symbol of healing and medicine. It features a rod with a single snake wrapped around it. And I haven't noticed lately, but you will notice many places, whether it's physicians' offices, hospitals, you'll see these. But I don't know which one is more prevalent, but then this one, with the two snakes, represents the Greek messenger god Hermes, and it's a symbol of commerce. It features a staff with two snakes wrapped around it, and sometimes wings at the top. The caduceus, I just thought you'd know this. I wanted to know this. I put this in here. The caduceus has been used incorrectly as a medical symbol for over 100 years. However, some say that it's up to individual physicians to choose between the two symbols. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that in there. And so we come to appreciation contributions. You all know that I appreciate them very much. And I put this in here just in case, if you're, I mean, we have the website, if you are on Facebook, we're trying to get this group going a lot with a lot more participation and a lot more information. And of course, the videos and the recordings of all of these sessions are on YouTube. So I just thought I would put that in there to mention it. And now we can go to a little bit of discussion. So we can talk about fear. What role did fear play in this healing? And can we acknowledge the presence of God in this particular healing? Okay, if y'all see the questions, then I'm going to stop the share, take the slides down, and see if anybody has any input.